I hope everybody is having a good Christmas. I don't know when I'm going to be uploading this, and happy holidays or whatever you celebrate. If you don't celebrate anything, we're getting into the New Year's. So let's hope everybody has a great 2023. I am going to continue on with the trial. The Katie Hobbs is on trial. I want to make sure that I say that properly. Katie Hobbs trial. Maricopa County, Arizona is on trial. Maricopa County Elections Co-Director Scott Jarrett failed to mention that he's known since early November about a shrink-to-fit problem, and we're going to dig into this. This is a shrink, and I'm going to tell you what it is. You might have heard about this. I think I've broken it down to where I have a good command over it. Shrink-to-fit problem, which showed up in a sample size of ballots that they got during the inspection. These ballots came from 6 different vote centers. Before I'm going to kind of do, here's the Perry Mason moment. I'm going to go around the world and come back to the Perry Mason moment. And I do have no matter how the judge has ruled, as of this recording, I'm recording this on the night of December 23rd. I have not seen a ruling from the judge. No matter how the judge rules, this is a good moment. Even though what I'm going to talk about to me is maddening, and if you're a citizen that cares, I don't care where you are in America, if you care about voting integrity, you should care about this. Here's the Perry Mason moment, unbelievable moment. I'm going to show you a clip from 2 different days. This first clip is from Wednesday, 12/21/22, and there's 2 clips here. One of the clips is from Wednesday, 12/21. Then you'll see it flip to Thursday, 12/22. And you'll see this is the Perry Mason moment coming where we were caught. I don't know if a lie is the right thing to say. He was caught withholding pertinent information, which makes you wonder why. And just as a disclosure for YouTube, I'm not trying to change anything. Katie Hobbs has been certified. There is nothing that I'm doing here to try to go against you, Twitter, Meta, whoever my FBI, whoever my overlords are. I'm not going against you. I'm just covering something that's public information. Let's go and take a look at this moment right here.
Go back to the earlier question about the 19-inch ballot image being placed on a 20-inch paper. Did you hear of any reports of that occurring in the 2022 general election?
I did not.
Okay. If that occurred.
So the shrink to fit issue is so the ballots that they're using are on 20-inch papers. Somehow, well, we're going to see how, somebody changed the settings on the printer so the image that it prints is only 19 inches. The tabulator machines can't read it unless it's a 20-inch image for a 20-inch ballot. Somebody changed the settings to make that image the wrong size, so these ballots did not go through the tabulators right there at the voting center. So let's bring that back.
Go back to the earlier question about the 19-inch ballot image being placed on a 20-inch paper. Did you hear of any reports of that occurring in the 2022 general election?
I did not.
Okay. If that occurred.
That's Scott Jarrett, co-director of elections. He said he did not hear anything. You just heard him say, he did not hear anything about a 19-inch, I'm bringing it back one more time, a 19-inch image being printed as an issue in the election, 19-inch image printed on a 20-inch piece of paper.
Go back to the earlier question about the 19-inch ballot image being placed on a 20-inch paper. Did you hear of any reports of that occurring in the 2022 general election?
I did not.
Okay. If that occurred, would that be a failure of Maricopa County's election process?
I'm not aware of it occurring, and I'd be surprised if there was a...
Look at Carrie Lake's lawyer. Carrie Lake's lawyer knows something. Look at his body language. This is the lawyer right here. When the lawyer says, the lawyer just asks him, if that happened, would it be a failure? And then Scott Jarrett volunteers again that he didn't know anything, but the lawyer knows something.
Aware of it occurring, and I'd be surprised if
The lawyer cannot believe his ears. He thinks Scott Jarrett is lying. It's very close to lying. Scott Jarrett is going to say that he misinterpreted, but it's clear. Obviously, you're going to see here. I'm going to let this go. You're going to see he clearly withheld information.
Occurred. Would that be a failure of Maricopa County's election process?
I'm not aware of it occurring, and I'd be surprised if there was a ballot on demand printer that had a 19-inch ballot. If something like that happened, which I
So he's playing games. I'd be surprised if I heard there was a BOD printer with a 19-inch ballot. That wasn't the question. It's a 20-inch ballot, meaning the paper is 20-inch. Somebody changed the image to be smaller than the paper. Scott Jarrett knows that. At this moment, he knows that.
don't know how it would. Yes, it would have been a mistake.
Could that have also been a deliberate act?
Again, you're asking me to speculate about things that I have no knowledge of occurring. So I don't know if it could have been a deliberate act or not. I don't believe that occurred.
And yesterday you testified.
Here's the next day, the second day of the trial. The lawyer's going to say, well, yesterday you told me something. Today it sounds like you're changing the story.
Deliberate act or not, I don't believe that occurred.
And yesterday you testified that a 19-inch ballot image being imprinted on a 20-inch ballot did not happen in the 2022 general election. Did you recall that?
Yes, I recall that there was not a 19 ballot definition in the 2022 general election.
But that wasn't my question, sir. I asked you specifically about a 19-inch ballot image being imprinted on a 20-inch piece of paper. So are you changing your testimony now with respect to that?
No, I'm not. I don't know the exact measurements of a fit to paper printing. I know that it just creates a slightly smaller image of a.
It creates a slightly smaller image. He's admitting he knows what happened now. He's like, well, the reason why I didn't say anything is I didn't know the size.
20-inch image on a 20-inch paper ballot.
Slightly smaller image. How come you didn't mention that yesterday?
I wasn't asked about that.
He said it's a 20-inch image that's been made smaller. That's what we meant, obviously, when we said it was a 19-inch image. What? And his voice was crackling a little bit. He sounded like that teenager off The Simpsons on day 2. He was very nervous. What's this problem about, if you don't know? So this person, Clay Parekh, I believe you pronounce it, inspected 15 duplicated ballots from 6 different voting centers. He inspected more than that, but just go to these, the one out of all the ones he inspected, which wasn't a lot, it was a small sample size. 15 were duplicated ballots, and they were from 6 different voting centers. 14 out of the 15 ballots, so people went in person to vote on election day. 14 out of 15 ballots were defective because the image used to print the paper, and obviously the person wouldn't know, so they fill out their ballot, they put it in the tabulator, and the tabulator says, I can't read it. And he just did a small sample size and found 14 out of 15 duplicates had this problem.
It's your testimony upon inspection of these ballots that you determined that there was a 19-inch ballot image projected onto the 20-inch paper. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. That's one of the initial things when I initially were reviewing evidence that was presented and in the public, I saw that the ballots, and it was, to me, was easily identifiable.
How many duplicated ballots did you inspect?
15 total.
And out of that, and duplicated again means that the ballot was rejected by the tabulator for some reason?
Yes, sir. It could not be tabulated at either the ICP2s, which are at the vote center, or the ICC at
How many of those contained a 19-inch ballot image on 20-inch paper?
14.
14.
So
It's-
14 in that small sample size. So how did this happen? Shrink to fit. On Thursday, the day Scott Jarrett's voice was crackling even more than normal, he was nervous. I've listened to a lot of this trial over the last couple of days, like day one and day two, rewinding to clip and all that. In my head, when I'm watching this trial, I'm like, Scott, do you need some water? Bro, you okay? Like, breathe. I'm like, breathe. Like, he was that nervous. And before he even went through his testimony, I knew something was wrong with how nervous he sounded. He sounded way more nervous than the first day. So on the second day of the trial, because after the first day, he didn't admit anything. Even when they were asking the question right in the realm of what he knew, he admitted that he's known since November that an unknown amount of temporary technicians, whoever the hell those are, we did not find that out in the trial because they only had so much time. And we'll talk about that later. Carrie Lake and them, they didn't know what to pinpoint. Temporary technicians did overrides and changed the printer settings while troubleshooting on the day that you pick your people at an unknown amount of voting centers.
A few of the other items that we've identified, though, as far as our ballot on demand printers, we did identify 3 different locations that had a fit to paper setting that was adjusted on election day.
Oh.
And that was due to our temporary technicians, when they were trying to identify solutions on election day, adjusting a setting. Now, this was not direction that we provided. What did you say, nigga? From the Maricopa County Elections.
They were trying to do what? They were troubleshooting?
Adjusting a setting. Now, this was not direction that we provided.
Oh, and you didn't tell them. Okay, what did you
So, as far as our ballot on demand printers, we did identify 3 different locations that
3 different locations, but bruh man who Carrie Lake hired, Mr. Parekh, took samples from 6 different voting locations. And out of the duplicated ballots, because any one of these would have been duplicated ballots, 14 of them had this, it's really shrink to fit problem. And he's trying to narrow it down to 3 voting centers when he knows right now they did an inspection on 6 of them, 6 voting centers. So we don't even know the scope. Scott Jarrett said they're doing their root cause analysis and they're still in the middle of it. We have no idea what the scope is right now, but he knows about the problem.
As far as our ballot on demand printers, we did identify 3 different locations that had a fit to paper setting that was adjusted on election day. And that was due to our temporary technicians when they were trying to identify solutions on election day.
They were trying to identify solutions and they click a shrink to fit option. Does that make any sense to you? The technicians are experts. This happened in 6 different centers.
Adjusting a setting. Now, this was not direction that we provided from the Maricopa County Elections.
Notice he wanted to get that out. We didn't tell them to do that. They just work for us. We didn't tell them to do that.
Solutions on election day, adjusting a setting. Now, this was not direction that we provided from the Maricopa County Elections Department, but adjusting that setting to a fit to paper setting. And that was one of the vote centers that was reviewed in the inspection by the plaintiffs in this trial on Monday.
So if I'm understanding you, on election day, when there was troubleshooting trying to identify this ballot.
Does this look like a trustworthy individual to you? You don't think the judge sees that and knows that? He's not going to rule in Carrie Lake. I'm not making any predictions. I don't think he will personally. I don't think he will rule in Carrie Lake's favor because of outside pressure. But we all, not everyone who's paying attention, this guy is sleazier than a used car salesman. He's sleazier than Dr. Oz. He's sleazier than Mitt Romney. He's just maybe not as smooth, but you look at him, and for me, he's a sleazeball. I don't trust him. There's not a word that comes out of his mouth that I treat with any type of seriousness.
By the plaintiffs in this trial on Monday.
So if I'm understanding you, on election day, when there was troubleshooting trying to identify this ballot on demand printer issue, one of the T-Techs or some of the T-Techs.
Oh, one of them or some of them. We don't know how many. She said one of the T-Techs, meaning the temporary techs, did this thing. Then she corrected herself and said, or some of the T-Techs. What? Were they just running around changing printer settings?
You on election day.
These are experts. So how could, if it's more than one, and say it wasn't a global setting and they had to do it at multiple, who ordered the code red?
Did you order the code red?
They're techs. They know the printer. They know what they're doing. How would they all come to the same conclusion that we need to accidentally or purposely click that setting?
When there was troubleshooting trying to identify.
And I'm going to talk about, I'm probably going to break this up into like 10-minute bits. I'm going to talk about in subsequent videos or maybe a whole video, depending on how I do it. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk about what happens after, you go in, you don't know, you get this wrong ballot that had the shrink to fit. It goes through the tabulator. It doesn't work. What happens?
By this ballot on demand printer issue, one of the T-Techs or some of the T-Techs adjusted that setting, and that impacted some of the ballots that were cast at those 3 locations. Is that right?
That's correct. And that was not a 19-inch ballot, right? When that happens, it's a 20-inch ballot, the definition of a 20-inch ballot that's loaded on the laptop that is connected to the ballot on demand printer.
He's saying this so he doesn't, I don't know if I'm not a lawyer, if it's perjury, but he's saying this so it shows that he didn't lie on day one. That's why he has so much energy. He sounded nervous before. He's got a little bit of energy now because he knows he has to say this to try and say, that's why I didn't bring it up on the day before. The reason I didn't bring it up the day before is because you said 19-inch image on a 20-inch sheet of paper. What I'm thinking is it's a 20-inch ballot shrunk. That's the that's the game of semantics he's playing.
Ballot, the definition of a 20-inch ballot that's loaded on the laptop that is connected to the ballot on demand printer that gets printed onto then a 20-inch piece of paper, but because of the fit to paper setting, it actually shrinks the size of that ballot. And then that ballot.
Yeah, like he said the day before. That's what they were saying.
Would not be tabulated on site at the voting location, and also could not be tabulated on site at Central.